was just over a year ago today that me and my friend Suki were in a car accident, and a pretty bad car accident. And you've probably seen the title of this video, heard that intro and thought, what? Is this the wrong video? No, it's the right video. You're gonna see how it's interlinked in just a moment, right? But we were in a car accident. It was the Tyson Fury versus Usyk fight, right? We went into town near us called Wolverhampton to go and watch this fight, right? And so we watched the fight. Obviously, naturally, it's on quite late, and we're driving home, right, down this road called the Penn Road, which is a pretty fast road. We just come out of a bit of a bend in said road, and just as we come through the bend, we went to change lanes. I say I wasn't driving. Suki went to change lanes. At least I think, obviously, this is hazy. We've tried to piece it together. It was one of those moments where, it's one of those times where everything seemed to move really slowly for a little bit of time. Adrenaline kicked in anyway. We went to change lanes, and then coming off of the same bend that we just exited was a car which we believe was speeding. And this car ended up hitting us, I believe, on the back side. We played like racing games with your mates, and what I would do, because I basically just love to fuck with people, is if I stopped winning or I had no chance of winning, whoever was in front of me, I'd just fucking hit their back right or left wheel, and you'd send their car spinning out, and they'd end up hitting inside the road and they'd fucking lose their shit. Well, this happened to us, but in real life, so it wasn't as funny, at least in the beginning. So this car hits us, right? I think we ended up veering into the middle of the road where there was a little bit of a bank with a railing that separated the two sides of the road. Because again, this is a fast road. We hit that and we ended up rolling. I think it was just once. Again, these details are hazy, but it was a pretty bad crash. Car naturally is written off. I remember, not a lot, but I remember the sound of just a not less than ideal way to end what would have been a class night. So obviously, car rolls, lands, and we come grind to a halt, right? Initial reaction, adrenaline's pumping, eyes are wide. We just grab each other. Shit, I think I hit the mic. Me and Suki grab each other. We're like, you good? Yeah, you good. Survived. We're really lucky. I don't know how. And this is probably part of the reason why we were able to, I suppose, come away and react in the way that we did. Oh, squirrels. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, I think it's a lot easier to have the reaction that we had because we weren't seriously injured, right? Which we very easily could have been, even mentally, physically, whatever it was. It could have been bad, but we were lucky. I got away with just a few scratches. Don't know if Suki got some scratches and some bruises. But yeah, somehow we got away pretty much unscathed, right? Very lucky. So all this is over. The car's grinding to a halt. We step up out of the car, right? Obviously you can see the black street marks where the car is skidded. You can see shit has well and truly gone down, right? And maybe, let me set the camera up to kind of show you what I did, right? After stepping out of the car. Because the reaction probably between me and Suki, let me try and explain a little bit. So let's imagine, right, between me and you, this is the car, right? Suki would have got out, would have been this side actually, my bad, right? So let's say, I'm here, passenger seat, Suki's next to me, we both step out of the car, right? Bear in mind, phones have disappeared, there's glass everywhere. I can step out, right? I go to close the door, right? So I basically slam the door shut, and obviously it bounces back open because the fucking door's fucked. That was number one. And I come out with this expression, right? And I walk around the car. And this is the expression on my face, as for what Suki tells me. And I come out, hands on hips, right? I'm stood about 2 meters from the car, about here. And I go, long day, bro. So we both just immediately start smiling, laughing at each other, right? It's a bizarre reaction to what should have been, and it probably was in some ways that we didn't quite realise, a traumatic event, right? We start laughing, we start busting jokes. We were joking, even just the way that we landed, stopped, and we're like, you good? It's never seen fear, right, in each other's eyes before, and then we saw it, right? And it was funny to us. And then we're like, oh my God, did we just roll? We're up in the air, bro. Right, stupid, absolutely stupid, right? But we were okay. And I remember in that moment, I just decided my reaction, realised this is one of those things where I might be scared of getting into cars for a bit, not ideal. It's one of those things where I might be mildly traumatised by it and want to take time off work. I couldn't afford to, right? I'm a one-man business. If I take time off, who's going to do the work? Nobody is, right? Can't afford to take time off. So I remember in those moments after the crash, deciding my reaction to it. And I decided A, I was grateful it hadn't been worse. And I decided B, this is going to be a good story to tell, right? It's the one that I'm telling now. And it's what me and Suki will be able to tell for a long time. And so a very bizarre reaction. And a few of our friends, being more stupid might just mean you suffer less and are more successful, right? We've heard of looks-maxing. I propose a new idea. Retard-maxing. It's not my original idea. I stole that word from somewhere. Not politically correct, but we move. I think it's Matthew McConaughey, right? And I don't think it was actually his quote, but I remember he once said, I'll make humour your default state, I think is what he said. Basically meaning, in as many situations, scenarios, or at least enter in most situations, enter it from a state of humour, right? Have this air of not taking things too seriously, right? Being able to laugh at yourself, being able to bring down the seriousness or the tragedy or the pain of a situation by laughing about it and making jokes about it, being humorous. Comedy is something that I wasn't big on before, right? Now, bearing in mind, I've always been a bit of a prankster, right? More than likely, I'm on the spectrum, right? So fucking with people, ADHDX, that's where I get my dopamine. If you know me in real life, right, or anyone that knows me in real life will tell you, I like fucking with people. It's just something that I do. Confusion. I like that moment when you've done something right, which is just unexpected, and you've messed with somebody or whatever it is, right? And there's just this moment of confusion on their face, and gold. But yeah, I never particularly valued comedy, even though I realised that I was actually doing it. But why is comedy so important? It's a brief escape, right? It can take away pain, it can take away suffering in our lives, and I think if you can have the ability to make light of or joke about something that maybe in the not so distant past was actually very painful for you, it completely takes away the grip that it has on you, right? It's no longer painful, it's no longer scary because you've laughed at it. I was recently listening to The Obstacle Is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and there was a part in there where it was basically saying next time, right, your boss is being a dick, or next time somebody is attempting to bully you or attempting to insult you, just picture them naked and having sex, right? Just picture them, right? Having sex, awkwardly grunting, moaning, trying to feel their way around in the dark, right? It's not an attractive image, is it? And it's amusing, right? And you think, oh, it's a bit cringe, but it's also very amusing, right? And because we can laugh at that image because it's just a ridiculous image, it takes them down a peg and we don't feel so of them, right? So make humour your default state. Take things a little bit less seriously, right? So being a little bit more stupid, right? Being a little bit more humorous, being a little bit of a clown, right, can alleviate some pain and suffering in life, right? How else is it useful? Overthinking, neuroticism, self-criticism. I believe that most people's problems, right, being a coach, right, myself, and actually coaching people in a physical sense in the gym and in training to obviously better their physique, most of the time the excuses that they give or the problems that they supposedly face, I find 9 times out of 10 they've actually placed there themselves, right, through potentially overthinking or through the sort of rigid rules that they've given for themselves. I don't have time, I'm too busy, I'm too tired after work. They say these things, they repeat these things, and again, these things might be painful for them because they feel overworked in their job, they feel tired all the time, they feel like they're always chasing and rushing around, right? But this comes from a place of overthinking, because I know objectively they do have the time, and if they just took action without trying to think or without spending time imagining them trying to follow a training routine and not being able to because they haven't got the time, and this, without even trying it, this instills this belief that they don't, right? They kind of reinforces it. Instead, they just took blind, stupid, ignorant action towards it. They will have probably realized, actually, I can fit a session in here. And sometimes it isn't even about them not trying, but they've got this perceived idea around what it takes to get a result. And what they think it takes to get a result is far more than is actually required, right? So what's your job? What is your career? What is it you do for a living, right? Think about that. Or maybe there's a hobby that you've got, right? And you can know for yourself, unless you have a really critical view of yourself, or maybe you've got overinflated arrogance or ego, which obviously we can all be guilty of. You will know people either within your career, within maybe a hobby that you do, a sport that you do, where there's some level of competition. You will know this one person that you just know is respectfully a fucking idiot, but somehow, miraculously, right, throughout time, they've somehow managed to work themselves up to a management position, or they're considered one of the better ones, right? Now, this could be poor estimation of their abilities on your part, or maybe some jealousy that's what it's making you want to pull them down a peg. But I think in a lot of fields, sometimes people that don't think about it too much, or respectfully, are too stupid to think about the consequences of what happens when this thing goes wrong. They don't overthink, they make it. And why do they make it? Because they actually take the action, right? They're proactive. They're not worried about looking like an idiot, because they are an idiot. So they don't have that awareness, right? So I just thought that was interesting. But you'll know it. You'll probably have exactly one person you can point to and be like, how did they get there? Right, how have they done that? Because they actually did the thing, right? Well, you were thinking about doing the thing, telling everyone you were going to do the thing, putting the plans in place to do the thing, but then you stopped doing the thing because you've overthought it, you've over-critiqued it. Sometimes a lived experience is the best way to learn, instead of just theorising, planning to the end, right? Which, bearing in mind, is something that I still think is very valuable. Plans, having a structure in place, having something to aim at. However, if in doing that, you overthink it, over-critique it, you need to get out of your own way. So sometimes being too stupid to realise where you could go wrong can help you to try, then go wrong, and then learn from that failure. And that segues into the next point, being that in order to progress in most things, you need to willingly become the fool. We've heard that idea before, or at least you might have done. To get good at anything, you've got to be a fool. The first day I stepped into the gym, I had no idea how to move properly. I watched some YouTube videos, but obviously naturally that doesn't immediately lead to correct form or accuracy in the way that I train. I didn't have a clue. I was incredibly anxious walking into that gym, right? Because I had this feeling, and a lot of you will have probably had this when you first started training, gym anxiety, that people are going to be watching you, people are going to know that you have no idea what you're doing, which most of the time, people aren't interested in that, they don't care. But even if they did, that's part of the journey. You've got, what other choice do you have? You're not going to do things because of fear of judgment, right? We all know that's something that you shouldn't do. You're not going to ever go to the gym because in order to learn to train, you've got to look like an idiot. For a lot of people, that's too much. However, the only way that you stop looking like an idiot in the gym and stop potentially getting judgment from that is by doing it. And also, that's a perfect opportunity, right? A gym, sort of third place that people, if you choose the right one, potentially aren't going to know you yet, right? That's a perfect place to test your ability, if you don't yet train, to go into a place without fear of being judged, right? But you've got to get over this fear of being a fool. I felt it when I first joined the gym. I felt it for a long time. When I started training BJJ, I felt like an idiot, right? It's like a statistic that men basically exaggerate their ability to fight by so much, right? That was me. I thought, oh, I train, I'll be good at this BJJ nonsense. Does it even work, right? I didn't think that because I watched UFC, but all of a sudden I was in there. Bearing in mind, I've never been the biggest of guys, but I remember a guy called, was it Kish? I think it might have been Kish. He's like 50 kilos wringing wet, right? 120, right? No, sorry, 110 pounds, right? And I would have been maybe near 80 at the time. See this little dweeby guy, looks like a nerd, I think. Oh, this is what a good first introduction, how fucking wrong that was. Bro was out there folding me into pretzels, sticking my leg behind my head. Right, he was having his way with me, right? If I didn't know any better, I would think I was being molested, right, by this guy. Just folding me, limbs everywhere, less than ideal circumstances. And after that first lesson, I realised I'm gonna have to look like an idiot for probably a long time before I feel comfortable here. When I started coaching, my first one-to-one PT session, right, I don't know, I'm having to learn this shit. I was supposed to charge £25 an hour at a minimum. I was charging £15 because I had that little faith, that little confidence in my ability to coach people, that I even undershot what was supposed to be the minimum by the gym, right? My first consultation with a client, who, at least one of the first ones, is actually a client now, funnily enough, and it was funny probably for them to see the change. One of my first consultations, right, It's a terrifying scenario, apart from now where it's incredibly laid back because I'm not desperate for that for a new client. I don't have any lack of confidence now in my ability to help somebody and coach them. But when I'd never done that before, my God, I was terrified. I looked like an idiot. My first spin class, right, when I was working for Pure Gym, terrible. I just used somebody else's songs. I couldn't even count beats in my head because I'm that autistic. Absolutely terrible as an experience teaching my first spin class. But in order to get better, in order to learn, I had to risk being a fool. Even I need to leave university, deciding to chase coaching as a career, as a business. Right, that was foolish, at least in some parts. Obviously, looking back, I don't think it was foolish now. I'm very grateful that I made that decision. I'm glad that I made that decision. But at the time, it was met with resistance from lecturers, some of my friends, right? Because I was a gifted kid, a smart kid when it came to maths and that. But you're throwing this away. But I already knew from college, right, my discipline, my adherence, my dedication to that had already dropped off, and I could drag myself through it, but there was no, and I know what it was, the reason being primarily I believe, is I actually had no end point. I had no career, or there was no job that degree could have got me that I particularly wanted or I'd even known that much about, so I had nothing to aim at. So why was I going to put these years of effort and tens of thousands of pounds into this piece of paper that right now I can't see where I want it? And I was loving gym, I was loving training, and I realised actually for everything that has done for me, I could teach other people to do the same. Anyway, we're getting off topic. I had to be willing to look like an idiot, to put myself up for judgment. Even doing this right now, right? On YouTube, there exists some old YouTube videos. I think I've across a few different channels of me when I first started, right? And my God, was I nervous, right? My camera presence. Well, ultimately, I just wasn't myself on camera. I just wasn't myself at all. I was uptight, robotic. I couldn't talk flowingly and freely like I do now. And even now you'll see cuts throughout this video because it's still a work in progress, but it's better than it was. For somebody with social anxiety, I had to be willing to put myself out onto social media, onto the internet. I had to be willing to post videos that I wasn't happy with at that moment in time. Because to get better is by doing the reps, right? So, if there's something that you want to do, but you've been overthinking it, holding yourself back for fear of looking like an idiot, if there's something in your life that is absolutely fucked, right? You've got this huge problem, you have no idea how you're going to begin to fix it, it's causing you a load of stress. Maybe viewing it and coming at it from a place of being a little bit more retarded. Make light of it, right? Stop overthinking it, just do. And this is not an excuse to go and do incredibly stupid things, right? Obviously that's not what I'm saying, but it is a call for you to start getting out of your own way, go doing some shit, and if something's really fucked up, right, look at yourself rock bottom and think, what a soppy prick, right? Fuck it, what are we gonna do with you? How are we gonna fix your life, right? Because that's what I've done every time things have been fucked. Just thought, oh, it's fucked now, right? Even recently, because of my own silly decisions, I've had to start working on clearing a load of debt, credit debt. And it was giving me some stress for a little bit of time. So I decided you're just gonna have to live like a peasant for a little bit of time. We're just gonna have to clear that out, right? You take away its power. So, fuck looks maxing, fuck banks maxing, fuck, I don't know, any kind of other maxing, right? None of it's important. What is important is retard maxing, baby.